All right. This will be another difficult one, at least to make, but if I confuse myself enough once again and start rambling once again, maybe once again, I'll have an epiphany, a eureka moment, some kind of a revelation. Maybe not. So, in my last video, you and I talked about some basic concepts, basically, such as, the concept of good and evil, light and dark, and how they relate to one another. We also talked about the transition from an agrarian society to an industrial one, which changed our societal, if you will, metabolism from consuming primarily the energy of the sun to consuming primarily the energy, or to a large degree anyway, energy that comes from the earth, is of this earth, comes from the deep and the dark. And while making that video, it occurred to me where the concept of, that was my epiphany, I guess, and someone probably has said that in history, where this concept of heaven and hell came from, right? Because the energy that comes from the sun is good. And I'm oversimplifying, definitely, right? If you fly too close to the sun, you will get burnt, right? But if you build your Tower of Babel too close to the sun, it'll crumble, right? If you try to get too close to God with knowing too much, trying to be omnipotent and omniscient, you will fail, right? You will experience God's wrath. At least that's one interpretation. So, I don't think anyone should be confused that when we say God, it has a lot to do with the sun, right? For many societies, the sun has literally been God. Eventually, Christianity, by saying that God first created light and then he created sun, it told us that, well, there's a man behind the curtain, basically, right? So, and maybe that's correct. I don't know. Maybe there is some other force that created all of this. But for us, simple people, primitive man on this planet, the thing that's palpable that we can understand on some level without anyone telling us anything, right? Without reading it in a book or anything like that. The thing that we can't understand because it's literally we can feel it is that without sun there is no life. Sun is creation, or it facilitates creation. The sun, if it doesn't create on itself, and maybe that's why there is a man behind the curtain, because you need more than just the sun. But at that point in time, for ignorant man, when we didn't know as much as we do today, who knows? That's a dubious statement in and of itself. But at some point, when we didn't know as much as we know at this point, it made sense to make sun the God. And Christianity changed that in a way while also giving the saints and Jesus a halo, right? Because that's what people responded to. It made sense. It makes sense to consider the sun the creator, or the creator also creating the sun. And that, whatever that is, however you interpret that, that being good, God, right? And then when you look at the etymology of the word God in various languages, like Deus in Latin, from which you get Dios in Spanish, it means celestial, shining, right? Light from a celestial body, obviously the sun. When you look at God, and this is disputed, some people say it means it's related to the word good, right? Maybe good came from the word God, I don't know. Some people say it means to invoke, at least in English, right? To pray, simplifying it a bit. When you look at Slavic languages and the word Bog, or however these various Slavic languages pronounce it, it has the same root as the word wealth, right? So there's a clear and direct link to the life force that comes from the sun. Where it comes from originally, well, that's another question, right? And that it produces wealth. It allows for life, it creates life, it facilitates life and prosperity, right? That's God. But then when you look at how we've conceived of evil, right? Obviously, when we don't get enough sun, we get sick, for example. When the night comes, it's a little unsettling, makes us insecure. Sometimes before we understand the world completely, that being children, that the sun will rise again. Don't worry, little kid, right? We are terrified of darkness, right? We intuitively recognize it as bad. We need the sun. We recognize that. Anyway, when we look at evil, if you will, and these are complete oversimplifications, right? But this is how we've conceived of the world we live in. We have presented evil as these beings that come from the ground, like that live in caves, like snakes and lizards and reptilians, so on and so forth, right? And obviously we associate them with darkness because they come from darkness. It makes sense. Or maybe we designated these creatures as evil because they come from the dark. So you have the serpents in the Abrahamic religions, at least the Bible, the Hebrew Bible and the New Testament, where the symbol of a serpent or snake played important roles in religious and cultural life in these various pre-Christian traditions. The serpent was a symbol of evil power and chaos from the underworld, obviously, but it was also a symbol of fertility, life, and healing. So, it's not that clear cut, because like the snake in the Garden of Eden, ultimately, I guess it was evil, but it also gave man knowledge, which is, good, at least to a degree. The Prometheus or Lucifer giving us fire technology. Well, even though ultimately we conceive of him as evil, at least that's what most people would think, there was some benefit to that sort of figure, right? Because we got technology. So you can't just say that technology is evil, right? No one would say that. Or maybe ultimately, well, that's a topic for another video. Let me not go down that road. But, when you look at theology, these various myths across various theologies, the demon in Greece was an angel also, right? Then you have this theology of Satan, the fallen angel. There's, knowledge, technology. These creatures give us something that's good also. But ultimately, we conceive of them as evil because they come from the depths and they're dark forces, so on and so forth, right? It's technology. It's of this earth. So by means of technology, we were able to populate the nether regions of the planet that are colder, that don't have as much sun energy, right? Because we were able, by means of technology again, to get the vitamin D from the sea, for example, right? As in the case of the Nordics. We were able to keep ourselves warm at night by means of the Promethean fire, right? So that made the importance of the sun god, God in general, lessen by means of technology, right? So that is perceived as evil because it pushes God out of our lives and makes man and technology and the snake and these earthly energies more important, right? And that's where the concept of heaven and hell came from, I think, because if you study the more occult history and the evidence of this on our planet, you'll see that there are, for example, ancient mines that go back thousands of years on which great cities, or by means of which great cities were built, that clearly had to have had used the types of technology we could only dream of today, right? In mining these depths of hell. The kind of technology that these people thousands of years ago had, we can't even conceive of. We don't even know how they mined these mines or how they built the pyramids, for example. We don't even know. And and the psyop that they used on us, this is a little bit off topic, but to keep us, to scare us, to diminish God, to hide our history from us. The psyop that they used on us is aliens, right? Whenever you find a civilization that you cannot explain, because the history, the links have been obscured, the history has been occulted, some dipshit will pop up and will say, aliens, right? Aliens did it. It was the UFO. All this nonsense. Anyway, it's it's pretty clear if you study history and the occult history, that there have been probably multiple industrial revolutions or technological revolutions where our technological advancement gets us to a certain level, makes the sun god less important in our lives, right? We build the Tower of Babel, or we learn how to fly and we get too close to the sun and everything crumbles and this gets destroyed, right? There's like the biblical flood, which was a real event from everything that we know. Then there's like the mud flood, which seems to have been more recent. There are various, something had to have happened to all these ancient cultures and all these technologies that have been lost, right? And everything seems to indicate that we got so proud, right? We got so technologically advanced. We got so close to omniscience and omnipotence that ultimately brought about our own destruction, right? We got too close to God. We got too close to the sun, and we were destroyed. And we reverted back to, oh, I don't know, Stone Age or something, even though that's, to me, Stone Age seems to be a period of high civilization. Anyway, those are the terms that people understand. So you could understand how the energy that's of this earth, that's mined from the depths, because it is dark down there, and ultimately, and these slimy, slithery creatures that could kill us too, come from there, right? Because the darkness is something that naturally scares us. You could see how we developed this concept of good and evil, and how the good comes from heaven and the evil is from hell, right? It isn't just Christianity that has these concepts. These concepts predate Christianity. So it makes sense that people would conceive of that which is not from this planet is good, and that which is from the planet, it can be good. It can be good to a degree, but ultimately seems to be evil, because it always seems to bring about our own destruction. So I guess the epiphany in that video was the concept of heaven and hell, and where that came from, and how it's not just some fairy tale. It has real world applications, basically. This is one of the truths that religion provides. And I guess just to close off this video, let me talk a little bit more about the concept of heliocentricity, or putting God in the center of the universe, right? And look, the Christian Bible tells us that, or maybe it is the Jewish Bible too, it tells us that God first created light and then created sun, right? And that could be true. But again, for us, the energy that we feel, before we could have someone put it in a book for all of us to read and learn, right? The thing that's palpable, the thing that we could understand without anyone telling us anything, is that, sun energy is good. Maybe that's God. Maybe that's a more primitive way of seeing it, but that's where God comes. The understanding of that's how we became religious. That's how we understood God. Is if the sun in and of itself is not God like the people thought, that's how we became to understand God, is through one of his or hers, its creations, right? Not trying to be politically correct or anything like that. It's just a way of me, it's a way of admitting that I don't know, right? I'm ignorant. Anyway, so there seems to be this constant struggle between, well, that's basically that demon has been slayed, but there used to be, for thousands of years, it would seem, the struggle between heliocentricity and Earth geocentricity, the Earth being the center of the universe. Because this was already talked about at least hundreds of years ago, if not thousands of years ago. It was understood, at least by some people, that sun is the center of the universe, right? God, we are dependent on God. God is the center, right? But a lot of groups have fought against this idea by putting Earth in the center of the universe, right? Looking to, in my opinion, at least some of them, to corrupt man, to lessen the importance of God in our lives, to destroy God, right? But ultimately, and this is where you got to give devil its due, or credit to technology, by means of technology, we were able to ascertain that, well, God is in the center of the universe, right? So now they had to use technology again with their super highly advanced Promethean fire, right, with rocket propulsion and their fancy telescopes, right, the technology. And let's not kid ourselves, a whole bunch of bullshit. Now they're saying, oh, there are other parallel or real universes, right? There are other solar or planetary systems out there. There are many different Earths out there, right? All theoretical mumbo jumbo for which there is no proof whatsoever. But once again, now that technology has basically squashed this idea of, and science, this idea that Earth is in the center of, you can no longer push anything like that, right? We basically understand, it would seem, that the sun is the center of the universe. Now they have to find some other way to try to undermine God, right? By creating, if only in the mind, alternate universes, other real universes, different planetary systems, other Earths, so on and so forth, right? Trying to once again move us away from God. So it would seem that even though hell isn't completely evil, because it's where you put bad people too, right? It's like the prison. It's what we use to make people good, right? Scaring them, scaring the hell out of them, basically. Um, it is it is something that could definitely destroy us, as it has in the past. It is a dark energy that's of this earth, right? It's our nature to be at least somewhat evil, which has to be balanced by something that's not of this earth, right? And from there we get concepts such as, obviously, religion, but also objective morality versus a more secular idea of man's self-importance, right? Once again, putting earth in the center of the universe, or making the world revolve around you, right? And from there you get these ideas of staunch individuality, which ultimately lead to our destruction, because we think we're God, we get too close to the sun again and we fall, right? We forget the fact that we are communal social beings and that we need one another, that we need to give up our nature, at least to a degree, in order to live in a society that where people coexist with one another, right? Our morality cannot come from you or I, because that means anything goes. It has to come from an external source if we want to be good, right? We need God. However you interpret that, we need God in our lives. It just makes sense. But by pushing geocentricity, which coincidentally, not to say that the Catholic Church wasn't against that either, but ultimately, Copernicus was a Catholic. The people that pushed geocentricity were, if not Catholic, Christian, or heliocentricity, right? The sun god. And in Protestantism, if you understand the history the way I do anyway, there was a push against that, for example. And Protestantism also gave us these ideas of, from which these ideas of individuality came, right? From libertarianism, liberalism, all these new reformed ideas came from. There's a correlation there, and it would seem to me that they need to fight certain paradigms such as heliocentricity and God in a way. They need to become more secular in order to push the agenda that they want to push, right? They need to, even under the guise of religion, a lot of the times, they need to undermine God. But, so you could understand why perhaps Protestantism was against the idea of the earth being subservient to the sun, because they wanted to push individuality, which ultimately leads to our destruction, because we can't make it on our own, basically. We need each other, and we need God. We do. We're dead. Without the sun, we're dead, right? Anyway, it's just a different way of interpreting religion and trying to maybe understand why we look at the world in the way that we do, and giving, theology, religion, and then these books such as the Bible, which is really just a historical record, giving them their due, not dismissing these ideas as just like stupid, baseless drivel, right? That's exactly what the devil would have you do, right? There's so much truth, there's so much wisdom, however corrupted, however destroyed or occult a lot of this has been. There's a lot of truth in God, religion, however you interpret that, right? It is definitely, I think, a source of good versus this energy that's of this earth that could go either way, and ultimately seems to always destroy us in the end, right? So, yeah. I don't really know what this video is about, but it's just me trying to understand the world, I guess, for what it is, and how a lot of these things that seem like so beneficial, like technology, like this individualism, this idea that, it's all about me, I, right? I create morality. Everything's subjective, right? It's up to me. Everything's up to me. How ultimately, this is hubris, and it's what, in the end, will destroy us. And it seems to be definitely doing that right now. So, whoa, puppies. Where I get puppies from? Anyway, that's my video. Long ass ramble. Let me know what you think. Check out New Earth, man. It's a very good channel. Someone linked me a few years ago. Very interesting stuff. Anyway, it's sunny outside, so I better get out there, soak up some of that energy. You know what I mean? Take care.